But we are also on tape. We are deep down in the bowels of Lee's music. Christopher J. Foulds, W.R. Martin Hastings, Magic Mike Miltnor, and Bonnie. This is episode 40.
40 is a big number. 40 is a big, big number. Biblical number.
Anecdote?
Big biblical
today?
number.
Wow. Last week?
40. We have, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and Noah built that boat and saved us all. And then Moses spent 40 days and nights on Mount Sinai, right? And didn't the lost tribe of Israel wander the desert for 40 years?
That's
Jesus. 40 days from the time that he was crucified and he arose and he ascended to heaven. So 40 is a big, big, big day. It's a very spiritual show today.
And if you're a Canucks fan, EP40, Elias Pettersson.
That's true. And of course, the greatest running back in the history of the NFL, Gale Sayers. He was number 40.
Thurman Thomas would be number 34.
Well, no, Gale Sayers. He played 5 or 6 years in the 60s, and he was the youngest man ever inducted into the NFL and the Football Hall of Fame. His teammate died of cancer, the big movie about Billy D. Williams and James Caan, right? You wouldn't know that because
I know James Caan.
You go see all these Spider-Man remakes and all these boom, boom, booms with Sturzak. You got to watch a good movie.
Is the explosion count.
You got to watch a good movie. Brian's Song, 1972, Billy D. Williams and James Caan. Very tear-jerking movie, right?
Okay, Mike, you were telling us about the latest and greatest, or not so great, in burglaries at Lee's Music.
Another battery. So I think I'm single-handedly keeping the car battery industry afloat here. I lost a battery, but good news. All new wires because they cut those. So my truck is ready for the gigs that are pouring in right now for our audiovisual company.
So for all those thieves out there, you got brand new pickings at...
It's number 40 is probably the number of batteries.
Yeah, probably 40 batteries.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Okay, we have a cool show today. Tk'emlúps to Secwépemc chief Rosanne Casimir was just in the Vatican City. You have a Vatican City...
Yes, well, yeah, I'll mention it to the chief when she's on the show today. But yeah, I was in Rome at the Vatican City 4 years ago. 4 years ago this August, and we toured the place as everyone does, and it was quite amazing and also a little bit disturbing. And I'll mention why I think so when I talk to the chief.
Okay, good teaser. I'm going to talk about Goran Nogic. Another TRU story that they're not gonna like coming out of
not
TRU.
Not good PR coming out of the university these days, nope.
Yeah, he's suing the university for defamation, for wrongful dismissal. He's been accused of verbally and physically abusing one of his former players. That's according to a claim he filed in court. So we'll talk about that as much as we can. Mm-hmm. Before we do that, let's have some fun here. Later on in the show, we're gonna give away 2 sets of 4 Blazers tickets. Sexy Chris from our office, Sexy Chris Wilson has set this up. So we'll tell you how to win them later on. Yes. In the show. Blue Jays, you're excited. It's opening day tomorrow, right?
I'm excited because the Major League Baseball starts tomorrow, April 7th, which is Cruiser's birthday, my brother's birthday, tomorrow.
Okay.
So anyway, it's exciting.
I haven't heard from Cruiser. Is he okay?
He's okay, yeah. He's just sitting home watching lots of political documentaries, yeah.
Okay. He's usually texting me. He's not texting me.
He's got Parkinson's, so he's got things going on there. Anyway, he's down in Abbotsford. Probably the Highwayman.
The Highwayman for sure.
So, no, baseball's starting, and I thought it'd be nice to talk about MLB. We almost lost this season through the greed and avarice of both sides, but it's starting on the 7th, and it's a very exciting time because, spring brings hope. Everyone thinks they can win the World Series. Every team is, in first place as of today. But I know there's a lot of Blue Jays fans in Canada. I can't stand them for many reasons, one of which they're a duplicitous organization that helped with the demise of the Expos. But that's another argument for another day. But they are a good team. They're a very good team, very good players.
They're among the betting favorites right now.
They are the favorite.
Vladdy Jr., young
favorite to win
Springer.
the AL, to maybe go to the World Series.
Yeah.
And when you think of the 3 players on there, there's Biggio, there's Bichette, and there's Guerrero.
Yeah.
I always think of their fathers because I watched all 3 play live,
yeah.
which is really weird. It makes you feel old.
Yeah.
But a great team. They got Kevin Gaussman from the legendary San Francisco Giants.
I was going to say this is going to be a Giants rant, isn't it? I grew up with cricket actually over baseball because my dad they moved here in '82 and he had no care for baseball. He grew up playing cricket in Rhodesia, so I was taught basically to hate baseball. It's like a poor man's cricket. I don't feel that way anymore. No. What about 12 teams in the playoffs as opposed to 10?
Too many.
Watered down? Because like with the World Cup, you're always that's too many teams getting in.
It's too many. It's too many. I grew up when there was 4 teams made the playoffs. You had 2 divisions in each league, and the winners of each division went and played for the championship. The purest form. I get it's money. I get your team's in it for longer. I think last year 10 was the max I would have liked. But 12's okay. 12's the way it is. And I like the playing game. It's kind of exciting. But I think 12's too many. but it gives hope eternal to middling teams. But just one last thing, if you want, I'm a known wager. You just World Series champions 2022, best team in baseball last year, best record 107 wins. This team has the most wins of any team in Major League Baseball history when they were founded as the New York Gothams in 1873. 25 to 1 odds right now at BCLC. Put a C note on it. You'll get $2,500 in October.
Okay, 40 episodes in. That's the first prop in Chris Foulds' history.
$100 get you $2,500. I did it yesterday. Do it tomorrow.
Mike, I need you here. Are you ready for this? Because I'll tell you what's not watered down like the MLB playoffs. This McDonald's coffee. It's
good
today.
today.
It's rich, good. It's pure. And Mike, can you hit us with some sweet tones?
Ba, 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 ba.
Thank you, Mike. Great job. Nobody's robbing your vocal cords. They're still right where they need to be. Yes.
Have a great night.
Can I say one thing?
What's that?
You're doing a great job, and I love to shop local at McDonald's.
Oh, shop local?
I love it.
Great initiative, right?
It's perfect. That's what you guys do a great job.
And which coffee do you like the most? Like Tim Hortons or McDonald's?
Oh, McDonald's by a landslide. It's not even close.
What about French vanilla from Tim Hortons?
Nope, always McDonald's.
Still McDonald's.
Always McDonald's,
Awesome.
man.
Have a
Cheers.
great
You too. That's Employee of the Month right there, Brandy. Mayoral race, Dieter Duty. What's going on?
Yeah, it's this week on April 4th, Dieter Duty, who's a two-term city councillor, announced, as we knew he would, that he is running for mayor, and it's shaping up to be a very interesting race. Ken Christian, the incumbent, he announced on Family Day that he's not running for mayor. He's not seeking re-election. Many know he probably would have won. He's topped the polls every time he's run in school district and city council, mayor, except for once. Anyway, he's not running. Open field. So we have Dieter Duty announces this week. Another very popular councillor, Arjun Singh, announced last month. Reed Hamer-Jackson, a local businessman downtown, he announced last month. And Ray Dollyball, who served on council for 1 year, from 17 to 18 after the by-election, he announced, and he's part of this slate called Action 22. Anyway, we have 4 interesting candidates, two of whom are incumbents on council. And this will be the first real race I think we'll have since 2011. That was the last time we had a race that was even worth looking at for the mayor. Every race has been a landslide. In 2011, which was that's the year Millibar was challenged by Duty. Duty was an unknown farmer from Westfield, at least unknown to us. And he came within 235 votes of beating Millibar, and it shocked everybody. And he only ran there because he said he didn't want to see Millibar acclaimed. He wanted him to work for his election. 2 other guys ran too, but they got a few hundred votes each. But it's going to be interesting to see also where the councillors line up behind which candidate, and if they'll say it publicly, we'll ask them. Like on council, who's going to back Duty, who's going to back Singh, who's going to say, well, who's going to be cowardly enough to say, I don't want to say which one.
Are there some that we already basically know?
We kind of know. We know, I don't want to say publicly because I've been talking to 2, but I know 2 for sure who are behind Duty. I don't know how many are behind Singh yet. And we know that there's 2 incumbent councillors who may not run, 3 who may not even run, but we don't know yet until the summer comes.
Does Dieter Duty like charcuterie boards?
Probably from his farm at Thistle Farms, he probably has a lot, and I probably use some because I'm a connoisseur of those boards, as you know.
But don't forget that New Leaf Produce Market, that's where you go for all your charcuterie board needs.
His stuff is probably there.
Yeah, probably because it's all local.
It's all West Side,
sources from local.
Beautiful Wednesday morning at the New Leaf Produce Market. I'm here with my buddy Hermels. He's got a big smile on his face because he asked me, Marty, do you know anything about charcuterie boards? And I said, Hermels, you should know me better than this. I'm from White Rock. I'm a blue-blooded White Rocky and the Silver Spoon. I know charcuterie boards better than everyone, which means I know that New Leaf Produce Market is where you want to go. And you might say, Marty, why? Well, how about this? Whether it's your local cheeses from the Dutchman Dairy, just from around the corner in Tk'emlúps, or maybe you're looking for the finest French and Italian sausage, cheese, and olives. Everyone's hard at work, you can see that. Then you've got the chop and block section. Italian sausage, chorizo, red hot jack, maple bacon cheddar, jalapeno cheddar. And then maybe you'd like to go international and get some English sausage. Anything you want for your spring and summer charcuterie boards, come on down to New Leaf Produce Market.
We're going to spend some time talking about Ukraine. That's Zelensky, obviously. I've been listening again to various podcasts, and we're starting to hear about atrocities that are happening or have happened in the last couple of weeks, because a lot of these cities are cut off. They're cut off from all communication, and so now we're kind of trickling out through the media, videos and stories, eyewitnesses and first-hand accounts of what's gone on. The one that pops to my mind is 2 days ago I saw this elderly lady who had lost her son. This is on the outskirts of Kiev, and there's video of her. She had to bury her only son in her backyard. He's barely underground. There's a pile of empty vodka bottles and just trash that the Russians had left behind.
Yeah.
It's undeniable now. I mean, what's going on there? Although the level of proof you need to say, legally, it's maybe not there yet. That's why on the BBC they're talking about apparent war crimes.
Because you have to prove definitively who are these images real? Are these and then when they are, who are these bodies dead, and who killed them? Could have been the Ukrainians trying to set up the Russians, like the Russian state media says. Is it what was it the Russians who killed them? Was it a battle or was it execution? And I think common sense tells you, but it's legalese, right? That's why Joe Biden, president of the States, when he was asked the other day, are war crimes being committed? He says yes, undoubtedly, but then he wouldn't go as far to say it's genocide because he doesn't know whether they're being killed because of their nationality, ethnicity. Yeah. So it's like we talked before. It's a lot of weird diplomatic and legalese things while people are being slaughtered. It's it's bizarre.
Also, what struck me was some of the brainwashing that's going on inside Russia. We know about this. It's no secret with how the Russian people are, what they're being fed and what they're eating up, and how that's dividing Russians with Ukrainians, families that have family members in Ukraine and
brothers
Russia,
and cousins,
and people in Ukrainian cities are literally being bombed, and they have and the Russian people, their own family is that couldn't be happening.
That's just Western propaganda. Yeah. I get emails from a certain person in Kamloops. Who is defending the Russians and sends me on a weekly basis. He sends me these articles from these obscure websites that says, "See, Chris, this is the truth," and it's all about. It's really, really frightening. It's all about. It's the same thing. COVID's fake. The news is fake. The Russians aren't bombing. Apartment buildings, the deaths in Bucha, the Kiev suburb where those men were found, 300 people with their hands tied behind their backs. That was either fake images or the Ukrainians did it to blame it on Russia. So it's almost like you can't reason with them. It's like reasoning with your son when he says there's a monster under his bed and you show him there isn't, but he's insistent there is. How do you reason with that? That's the same thing with these people who believe that it's about getting rid of the Nazis. They believe that this Jewish president is supporting the Nazis there. It's just, I know there's a group of Nazis who are in Donbass, and they're working, they're their paramilitary group, but the government itself is not a Nazi government, and it's hard to even have to argue that.
You really have to trust in the critical thinking of the Russian people. I mean, obviously these are not stupid people in Russia. They can think for themselves. What they're being fed, unfortunately, by the media, like I heard today on the Ukraine cast, that media outlets that report anything other than Russian victory, the people who report it can get up to 15 years in a labor camp.
Well, there's been dozens of reporters from dozens of independent news agencies that had to flee the country when the war started because you can't call it a war. It's a special military operation. They're freeing the people of Ukraine. You have to see from Nazi tyranny. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of reporters from independent Russian newspapers, websites, TV stations that have fled, and they're broadcasting back in there. They're trying to block it. So the only news the Russian people are getting, it's like the old days when we grew up in the Cold War. It's like a Pravda thing, right? Where it's just government telling you, what you want to know, and it's basically just propaganda, false propaganda, and it's too bad.
Okay, Ana Muzyka, she is a Ukrainian living in Kamloops. We've talked about her on the show, TRU WolfPack volleyball player. She's been spearheading a lot of the efforts in town to organize fundraising, humanitarian things. She did a big run at TRU on Friday, and I went there and took some video.
What are we doing here on a Friday morning, Anna?
It's run. We're doing Run for Ukraine. We're gonna run 44 kilometers for 44 million people that are in Ukraine. I'm very passionate about Ukraine, and I really want for people to know what is happening, and I also want to bring the community together here because Kamloops is very special for me. It feels like family too. So I feel useless because I'm not there, but when I do stuff like this, it really brings the hope that I'm doing something right.
Yeah, my parents still live in Kharkiv, and as well as my brother and sister-in-law.
How is their situation right now?
It's tough. I mean, they're doing okay. My parents are staying at the cabin just outside of the city limits.
Okay.
My brother crossed the country a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, he was enlisted into the local military forces. Yeah. So now he's just doing a lot of training, and they kind of forced him to join the ranks. So that's been unfortunate. So we're just trying to stay in touch with him and see how he's doing, and it seems like he's doing okay. He's in high spirits, so that's great news for us. But my mom's really nervous and stressed, so.
Yeah, how's your mental state? Just like Anna said, she kind of feels helpless over here. How do you feel about that?
I totally have the same, we share the same sentiment, and I think same emotions and everything.
What's the latest on your family, and is everybody safe?
Yes, on my family, everybody's safe, but many, the women's side of the family just left the country because it's safer that way. But all the men, they are still in the country. And
they're obviously in danger at all.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody who's still there, and I think you had one uncle or cousin who's actually off to fight, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's how exactly like this event came up. We've been talking a lot about what we can do for our people, and and you know, like I came up with the idea of running in Prince George, and it made me so happy realizing that Anna wanted to do the same thing in Kamloops. So yeah, it's just awesome. It's awesome to see support of like both communities, and I couldn't be more happier seeing that kind of support. So I'm sure Anna will be happy by the end of this event as well.
Michael Potestio is working on a story, or has worked on a story, about more refugees coming to Kamloops.
Right, yeah, Kamloops Immigrant Services and a bunch of other groups, including RAFT, which is an acronym to help immigrants come to Canada, including the MLAs and the MP and lots of other groups and people are meeting, and they're trying to coordinate an effort because they're expecting this week, it's April 6th right now, this week they're expecting up to 19 Ukrainians at least to come to Kamloops. They have to find places for them to stay, to live, to billet, to feed, to educate. It's a daunting task, and they're expecting many more, maybe more than they thought afterwards, because they're not classified technically as refugees. They can come here on visas as to stay here up to 3 years to go to school and to work here. So it's a expedited process, and it's good because it gets the Ukrainian refugees here faster, but it forces us to scramble on this end to find out how to welcome them, how to make sure that they're being looked after.
I think there's already about 20 families waiting that have said they're going to accept. Kamloops families accept the
we have there's a couple dozen now who have said that we're ready to go. We have room in our houses. We have families to welcome them, so that's good. And if people want to get involved, just contact Kamloops Immigrant Services. They're on Tranquil Road, Tranquil and U Street. They're online, and they could probably welcome some help.
$6,000 raised, by the way, in Anna's run. And here's Michael right now with some more on what you're talking about in the last week clique.
Most people who are coming from Ukraine, they're coming as temporary residents under this new Canada-Ukraine authorization for emergency travel that's been set up by the Canadian government, and they're technically not considered refugees under this program. They're temporary residents, not classified as refugees. They are refugees because they're fleeing a war zone, but they're not classified this way. And what we've heard from refugee resettlement groups like RAFT is that they're not directly connected to this process. They don't have a lot of information, unlike other refugees that they would be resettling to different cities. It's a little more piecemeal than that. These organizations like Kamloops Immigrant Services really only know who's coming here if someone reaches out to them. So that's why it's good that all these agencies are coming together locally in town, talking about how they can share information and resources to best support Ukrainian refugees who are going to be settling here. And it seems like it's going to be quite a few who are coming in and settling. We're already getting a lot of people who are either on their way or already here now. So that's all I got for you guys for now. Back to Marty and Chris in the studio.
before we bring Tk'emlúps to Secwépemc Chief Rosanne Casimir in, can you just give us some background on what she was up to in the Vatican City?
Yes, last week Chief Casimir was part of a delegation of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. 3 different delegations went to the Vatican to meet with the Pope and talk about the need for an apology for the residential school abuses perpetuated by the Catholic Church as they ran the residential schools in Canada from the 1800s to 1996. It's been a long story, many decades in the making, but it was amplified by the announcement in May of last year, 2021, at Tk'emlúps of the discovery of 200 probable graves next to the old Indian residential school. So they finally got to, COVID kind of delayed all this, but the delegation finally got to go to the Vatican and in Rome, and they actually got to meet one-on-one with the Pope and talk to him and tell him why they're there and what they want him to do. He apologized, which was a surprise to many, and he's supposed to come to Canada later this year. And Chief Casimir actually managed to hand him personally a letter inviting him to come to Kamloops when he comes to Canada.
Amazing. It's amazing. And let's hear from her now. Hopefully she's not jet-lagged. Let's bring her in right now. Chief Casimir, how are you?
Very well, thank you. And yourself?
Good. How are you feeling? You all recovered from the flight, or are you still jet-lagged?
I am still a bit jet-lagged.
Yes. Are you in Toronto right now, or are you back here in BC?
I'm in Toronto, and I'm back in BC tomorrow.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate the time. I know you've been inundated with media calls, and I know you've been talking with Michael Potestio a lot over the last week or two. I mean, we've done lots of stories, and he's really impressed with how much access we could get, because I know you guys are really busy. So thank you for that. Now, I guess first off, and you have explained this to many people before, but can you just walk us through what it was like to be there? And more importantly, what does the apology mean that maybe other people don't realize how important it might be, and what does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, being and having the opportunity to meet with Pope Francis was something that was extremely important. It was definitely an opportunity, especially as an Indigenous leader, to be able to carry the voices of our people to the highest level of the Catholic Church, and for him to truly hear, the traumas, the impacts the Catholic residential schools have had. And so when we're looking at that visit, it was really, a meaningful step towards reconciliation. But, I know that we're still looking at, justice in whatever form that is to, help our community, our people, our nation, and the world, because we have so much healing to do, because for so many, they've lived with this trauma. We've seen the intergenerational impacts. And for many of the non-Indigenous people, they were questioning their own Christianity, their Catholicism, and, learning the truths about, what happened, with so many of our people. So for me personally, to be able to be there, it was something I carried with great honor and with a lot of pride. Pride in the fact that my people entrusted me to deliver the messages, and I was able to do that. And I know there was questions about initially only having 10 minutes to have that opportunity to meet with him, but that time I was very, very relieved that we had a lot more time than the 1 hour allocation, and for myself 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we definitely had maximum opportunity. We, instead of that 1 hour, we tapped just over 2 hours. And it was a real opportunity to really be able to express the needs and the importance and the significance of that moment in time, and for some real meaningful steps to take place.
Well, what was your interaction like, and did you feel like you were treated with sincerity?
I really felt like we were all treated with sincerity while we were there. He truly listened to each and every single one of us, and took that time to really reflect on what he was hearing. And he even had and took that opportunity to take away everything that he heard from us, and then meet with us as a full delegation the following day to really share his thoughts and to share some meaningful statements and some steps moving forward.
Did you feel, when you went, did you go in feeling like this was just going to be lip service, that it was just for show? Did you have any worries about that?
I did have some worries that it was going to be, a bit of lip service or even rushed. And for me, there's nothing worse than feeling rushed, and the importance and significance of getting messages delivered and to truly ensure that the messages that you're delivering were really being heard. So those were some concerns of mine, prior to the visit. So I was definitely relieved to know that he did hear us.
What would you want to do with the Pope's visit if he does come to Tk'emlúps?
So there will be a lot of different things that I would love to do. I do hope that Pope Francis does accept the invitation to come to the Kamloops Secwépemc. But, as a board of director with the BC Assembly of First Nations, again, my hope would be that he would take the time and the opportunity to visit and to be present in any of the communities that had unmarked graves within British Columbia. We know that there's 18 residential schools and 3 Indian hospitals. So I think that would be something that would be truly meaningful to take that opportunity to really understand and to really be able to reflect on the impacts of those findings and how it's re-traumatized our intergenerational survivors and our survivors. I was able to give him a hand-delivered invitation, and our language and culture department did beat a beautiful eagle feather for him as well. So I included the invitation with that feather. Okay. And, the feather, had beautiful beadings of orange representing orange shirt, and also the Catholic symbol as well as the cross on the beading.
What's the significance of the eagle feather for those of us who don't know?
So the significance of the eagle feather, for all those that don't know, we truly believe in the power of the eagle and the eagle carrying our prayers up to the Creator. And that is the belief that we have. Okay, interesting, yeah. I was there at the Vatican 4 years ago, and we did the tour like the tourists do, and you go through and you see it, and I had my 2 kids with me. They were 16 and 18, and I found it interesting that their reaction was, first of all, very impressive, all the gold and all the stuff, but they were also disturbed by it because they realized that this stuff comes from elsewhere and maybe should be elsewhere. We saw the whole Vatican, pretty much the whole Vatican. And I did have some concerns in regards to the museum. We did have an opportunity to visit with the museum, and we also had lunch in the museum. But there were a lot of artifacts that were Indigenous and that were from our people. So I know that, there's a lot of questions about how and where and how were the artifacts, brought there, were they gifted, and, or how they were collected there. So I know that, we're going to be having some discussions. I'll be sharing that with my community and, looking at some of those next steps, because a question was asked, about being able to share in the museum. I guess there's over 80,000 different pieces that they have. And so what they want to do is to have in the museum different areas and locations that represent all the different groups, cultural groups, and to be able to, share that. So I know that some of those steps and those conversations will be taken back to the community level, and there will be further dialogue between, us as Indigenous as well as with the CCCB.
Right.
Yeah, so you've just met with the Pope, which is something that millions of people across the world would love to do. But what do you want to come from it? I mean, what tangible improvements would you like to see come from what's just happened?
I felt like he heard our messages when we went there, because he said that he felt shame, he felt sorrow, for the role that the Catholic Church had with the educational responsibilities and, with our survivors. who attended the residential school. So, part of me, felt good because it was taking ownership and didn't deny, but accepted and took on that responsibility. For me, I want to see those next steps where he come here and be on Canadian soil and to offer that apology in a meaningful way to our people. Some of the steps moving forward, we have a lot of unanswered questions of, further steps with the National Truth and Reconciliation, the calls to action. There's still many steps that needed to be completed. And we have unanswered questions like, who are the children? What were the circumstances of their deaths? Who their families are, the communities that they belonged. And, we know that we can't do this work alone and that they have information, documents, records that, we're going to be, looking to access to be able to further, find and help get the answers that our people need and that everyone wants to know.
All right.
Okay, thanks for your time. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when we came back to Canada, Air Canada was absolutely amazing. They wore their orange shirt pins. They were very welcoming to all of the delegates coming back to Canada. It was absolutely amazing. And it was so nice to have that kind of, welcoming back by them.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right.
thank you for speaking to us, and thank you for keeping in touch with Michael. Hopefully you can catch up on some sleep.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Air Canada. Hey, John
Air
Kretchen.
Canada.
John Kretchen named that airline in '65. It was TransCanada Airlines, and then he came up with the name because it's bilingual.
Okay.
And the government owned it then, and then it went private, and now they own it a little bit more. I sound like Kretchen. I went there. I went there.
I think for me, the sincerity part really came across there. I mean, I had my doubts, of how they were going to be treated, if this was just a big first show, like let's get it over with kind of thing. But to hear her speak so passionately about how she felt welcomed and felt like it was sincere, that's a good sign.
Pope Francis is largely seen as the most progressive pope probably ever, and he's done a lot of things that are pissed off a lot of really conservative Catholics, but have really enlightened a lot of other people with a lot of different issues. And like it said in Michael's story, Chief Casimir was very surprised that he offered the apology. They thought it would be a resistance thing, for liabilities and stuff like that. And other groups wanted him to do it on Canadian soil, which when he comes, he will do it again, I know it. And when he does come to Tk'emlúps, we'll cover that, and then we'll go for a beer and wings on you.
That's not going to happen. Let's move on now to the Tattle of Hastings. That is Goran Nogic from Serbia. Came to Kamloops to coach the TRU WolfPack women's basketball team 2019. He's now suing the university, alleging defamation, wrongful dismissal, claiming he was terminated without cause. This was in October after an improper investigation into what he claims are untrue allegations made by a player who left the team in September. And the allegations are serious. I'll read them off here right now. According to the claim, slapping a student athlete, inappropriate touching, calling a player fat, bullying, mental abuse, harassment. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's what he said. The university claims he did. He denies it. Nothing has been proven in court because it's just a lawsuit he filed. The university has 21 days from, I think, April 1st to respond. It's just another, it's not a black eye for university. It's just another headache for the university that doesn't need it because they've had a lot of PR issues that they're trying to muddle their way through, and this is the latest one.
Well, it came as a shock. I remember last October when they parted ways.
It was sudden.
Right, because he had done a great job on the court as far as wins and losses, taking a team that was really in a bad spot and getting a few wins out of them. And I reported on his coaching style, which was, you go to 2 games, you can tell it's abrasive,
aggressive. It's like old school.
I did a story on it.
When you did the story when he was suddenly he's gone, and the thing that it just drives me nuts is an employee, a coach, suddenly gone and they won't say anything about it, and all that tells you is there's something more here. What did he tell you when you talked to him?
Goran?
In October.
Well, he told me that you'll eventually get the story.
A good story.
You get the big story.
The big story, right? Yes. So this is the big story.
Right. I mean, back to his coaching style. I mean, it was tough love and it was abrasive. And at the time, I had asked the ladies on the team about it, and what they were saying in the media was that we understand he's just that's the way his coaching style is. He's hard on us, but it's tough love, and you never know how things are really behind the scenes. And there was clearly some emotional moments where he'd be dressing them down on the sidelines, but that doesn't prove anything. I'm just making a comment on what I reported on back then on his coaching style.
What you saw
at that level, male or female, in this day and age, you don't see a lot of it. So it stuck out big time for anyone who went to those games.
Yeah.
Back to this claim, which is obviously one-sided. None of it's proven in court. But if what he claims is true, and these are just drummed up lies by a former team member who's pissed off and wants to eviscerate him, then you can understand why he'd go to court, because his life's been turned upside down. His job prospects are essentially nil. Physical and mental issues, he claims. These are all things he claims again. Public embarrassment, so these are things that he claims. So you could understand why he would be, his life has been turned upside
suicidal thoughts.
down.
He said he went to the hospital because he had
suicidal
dark thoughts. Yeah.
But if his claims are false and he did all these terrible things, he verbally and physically abused a player and was fired with cause, and now he's doing this, well, good riddance, Goran, and it's shameful for him to be doing this.
The thing we don't know, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Don't know yet. And you don't know, and you can't not believe somebody, but you also have to believe. You have to take the accused lines in. You got to take that in step two, because you can't say you're guilty just because someone accused you of that. But you have to investigate it, which is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which is what he says they didn't do properly, which is why it's in court.
And what I do worry about, and I talked to you about, how do we deal with this in the headlines, is there is no female voice in the story from the players right now.
No.
I have reached out in whatever way I can. They know that if they want to speak, they can speak to me. And this goes back to the story when he was the first parted ways, and even recently they're aware that they can speak, but there are many reasons why they might not want to.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe they were told, I don't know if this is true, this is just me speculating, I have no idea if this is true or not, but maybe they were told by the university not to. Are they fearful of repercussions if they do? Have they been advised by lawyers not to? Do they just not want to bring this out into public? It's a very personal thing if that happens. There's a lot of reasons why.
Well, there's many we don't know, but a big one also is when anything hits the court, whether it's a criminal court or whether it's a civil lawsuit like that, that will be enough for a lot of people to say, I don't want to screw anything up, I don't want to do anything, and that's understandable. So we, in our job, my experience is once something hits the court, and you'll see the city or organization say, I can't speak to this before the courts, I can't speak. It's an easy way out for a lot of people, but for other people, it's, hey, I don't want to screw it up. If I say something, I might incriminate myself, I might screw this up. Maybe the lawyers are giving them advice not to talk, but I would be surprised if they do talk now that it has been filed.
Well, so that's what I want to ask, because I don't know about this stuff very much as far as the court proceedings. So once they're served, the defendants have 21 days to file response.
Yeah.
His lawsuit was filed this past Friday. So does that mean that we are going to hear from these Jane Does in responses?
No, the response would be from the university, probably as an entity, as an organization, and they would respond and say it has no merit, and we stand by what we're doing, and we're willing to go to trial on it or whatever.
And that's public for us to.
And that'll be filed, right?
Yeah.
But the majority of these cases never reach the point of a trial. They're almost always resolved before they get there, and we don't know about that. Tim Petrick, reporter for us, he went to Castanet. He actually reported this story first. He's at the court all the time, and he knows how to search for the stuff, and he's probably the most knowledgeable court reporter in Kamloops. And he'll tell you, and when he was working,
just took a huge boost that he didn't need.
When he worked with us for a decade, his beat was the majority was court, and he'll tell you, we'll report on someone suing someone, and then it'll disappear, and readers will say, what happened to that? All we can say is they must have settled it, and that they're not obligated to tell us that. We can ask, they won't say anything. If it does get to the point of a trial, well, then we could cover the trial. It's like a criminal trial, but it's a civil trial. And it's like, I'm suing you for this. Well, no. And then the judge decides whether or not he's him or the university. It rarely gets to that point. But it'd be interesting to see. We'll check the files, and I'm sure Tim will be on top of the files there.
Can we get Michael to be on top of the Foulds this time? I blame Michael for
Well,
us being scooped.
Michael-
Get down to the courthouse, Michael.
Well, no,
okay?
because Michael's doing a lot of other stories that no other news agencies are doing.
I know, it's my beat.
and they're important. And we don't have one person dedicated to the course because there's a lot more to cover here.
That
But
being said, do a better job, Michael.
that being said, we will be looking at those files, and I'll give Petruk a call after this. Just tell him to send us over when he finds it.
Yeah. Okay, let's flip now to the riveting topic of tax increases that Chris would like to talk about in Above the Folds. Okay, Chris, you've promised me that this is going to be anything but boring. So let's talk
No,
tax increases.
I actually said it is boring, but we need to talk about it. Now, we should put this at the start of the show because we've had a really good show up until now.
No,
And then
because
we gotta
people would have
talk
just
about-
turned the show off by now.
Yeah,
first
sort of.
thing.
I'll make this quick and sweet. Anyway, it's important. Most people think of taxes, they start yawning and their eyes glaze over like Bonnie's and Mike's. Look at Mike over there, he's not even listening to us. Anyway, it's important because if you own property, if you own homes like Mike and Bonnie do, and like we do, the taxes are very important because it's how much you pay every year and they go up and down. Anyway, I just wanted to point out that this week, City Council has finalized its tax increase, property tax increase for this year. It'll be like officially formally finalized in April, but it's basically done. It was done yesterday because they go through this thing called supplemental budget items. I'll explain what that is in a minute. Anyway, we're looking at a 4.92% increase in property taxes, about 5%. That's the largest in a decade. However, half of that, 2.3%, almost half of that, is because of the RCMP wage increase, which is out of City Council's control. If there wasn't that big pay increase, over which we have no control, the tax increase would be about 2.5%, and that's about average of what it's been over the last 10 years, about 2% per year, cost of inflation, not a big deal. The city takes taxation, that's the only way they can get revenue, they can't do anything else. So they tax us and they pay, the roads, they pay the staff, they pay the police, the firemen, firefighters, potholes, snow removal, all that.
Yeah.
Yesterday, they have something called supplemental budget items, which is extras like want to have. So they look at the list of 12 things. Some from the people say, I want an ice rink downtown. I want the city to spend $1 million to put in crossings so the trains don't whistle. I want public Wi-Fi. Those are real things that they were looking at. Anyway, they had 12 items that they were looking at. If they approved them all, our taxes would go up a little bit more. They approved most of them. I think 4 of them they didn't approve, including no public Wi-Fi. So that's basically, I just wanted to point that out, that aside from your operating expenses that add to your tax bill, there's the extra sort of like items they looked at. They approved some yesterday. The biggest one was climate action change. It's the biggest increase for your taxes, and it's basically the city saying, look, we got to deal with the climate crisis and we got to mitigate it. Riverside Park is undergoing a flood mitigation control. Bringing down your emissions, buying electric cars, making the culverts bigger for those flash floods we're getting. It's all that kind of boring stuff, but it's important stuff. That's all I'm saying.
Everything adds up. The man is after you.
The man is after you at all.
Special assessments at my apartment building. The woodpeckers are probably going to cost me a bunch of money because they're burrowing in there.
The woodpeckers.
The tax man's after me again every year.
At work, we got a text, email at work now. Our benefits are going up on a monthly basis. They're going up for medical, but they're coming down for dental. But we're still going to pay about $20 or $30 more a month. So
gas prices, inflation,
never ends. Mike's probably raising the rent on us next week, so it's horrible here.
It might start.
I just did.
Yeah. So bottom line is it's boring, but it's important. And sometimes the most boring things in life are more important than the sexy things in life. And just so you know, 5% increase, prepare for it. So you don't have a heart attack when you open up your tax bill in June.
If you were brave enough to make it through that segment, you have got to the point where we explain the Blazers ticket giveaways here. So it was interesting. Just feel like you're rattled. You're running hot now. It was fine.
Yes.
So share this episode on Facebook and answer this question in the post. Who do you think would make the better charcuterie board, Foulds or Marty, and why? If you tag New Leaf Produce Market in the post, you get bonus points, and we will give 2 sets of 4 tickets away. It's good value. This is a good value.
What game
one
is
here.
that?
It's versus PG.
PG's in a dogfight for the last playoff spot right now.
At Kamloops, trying to stay in the hunt for the top spot. The West kind of fading out a little bit now, but they might be in there.
Yeah.
These about $100 at least value for 4 of the 4 tickets.
It's the biggest prize we've ever given away on this show on the 40th show. It's pretty good.
Yeah, best answer wins. Mike, final thoughts on the show?
I really liked the show. I thought it was good. Rosanne Casimir, I think, is an amazing ambassador for Kamloops and her community. And just overall, Taxes. But other than that, I just want to say, Chris, I thought you did a really great job today.
Mike,
Marty, you're
you're
here.
always with your subtle rip jobs. Well,
All right.
Herman did a great job. Magic Mike and Bonnie, they always do a great job. Scott Finley and the Grand Ones. Chris Foulds, great job too. We'll see you last week on episode number 41.